So I had a call before this with a client, and she brought up a really good question that I wanted to bounce off you, that I
Yeah.
think would be a good topic of discussion for us. I think a lot of people struggle with this, and it is, how do you get your partner or spouse to embrace your health journey with you?
Mm, yeah, that's a good
Great
one, dude.
question, right? What comes to
That's a
mind
good one.
first for you?
Well, I think everybody's going to be different, right? This is a very nuanced question, so it's not like a one size fits all. However, let's just assume that the person or the people asking, this is extremely important to them, right? Like, so the person that is pursuing it, um, they're not kind of just like dabbling, because I think there's a difference, right? I think there's a difference between the dabbler, the person that's like, oh yeah, it would be cool to improve our health and get in shape. Like, we got a cruise coming up, so I think it would be cool to get in shape a little bit, and we should both do it. And then like one of them's not on board or whatever, right? Like that's very like, oh, this is cool. This is kind of like a convenient idea, right? So I'm saying my answer to them would be a little bit different, because that could be a scenario like where, let's use that scenario. That could be something where the husband hears the wife like interested and wants to like get ready for this cruise, right? And the husband's like, yeah, it's the same thing you wanted to do 6 months ago. It's the same thing you wanted to do 2 years ago. So he hears this broken record, right? So he doesn't believe her. He's like, yeah, okay, it'll be just like this short burned out flame that you always do, right? And so in that case, that's very like, my feedback to that person would be like, it'd probably be asking a series of questions like, how important is this to you? Is this something that you're just like, you want a quick fix and you want to get ready for this cruise? Like, that's totally fine. That's cool. But there's no wonder that you sound like a broken record to your husband. So it's hard to get his buy-in, because he's seen you do this time and time again. And maybe that's a wake-up call for that individual too, to be like, oh, maybe I need to stop getting ready for like these checkpoints, these instant gratification things, these short-term things. Maybe this is my wake-up call to actually live a healthy and fit lifestyle. And when you see that transition, let's just assume we're talking to that person now. That's totally different. That's where I'll tell that person, like, look, it's one of the first questions I ask on my intake form is, what's your support like, right? Do you have a supportive spouse at home? And if not, then you need to have that uncomfortable conversation. I can join you if you want, if you need me to provide any information, but you need to get buy-in from them, and you need to get support from them first and foremost. They don't have to do it, right? They don't have to do it with you. That's fine, but you do have to get support, because this journey is hard. It's tough. Like, you're going to struggle. You're going to have bottlenecks. And the one thing that can hold you back, that I see people get held back time and time again, is an unsupportive partner, an unsupportive spouse.
Yeah.
Like, so that's the first thing that comes to mind, man. What about you? Like, that's a tough question, and I
Yeah.
think it depends on the person, but like, what would you say?
No, I think it's great, and it's something that literally, I mean, we all see all the time. I know I don't have as many clients anymore, but when I was really, at the 15, 20, 25 clients, um, that was something that came up a lot of like, hey, like, how do I get my husband on board or my wife on board with what I'm doing? A lot of time, I feel like you see it more with how do I get my husband on board? I think
Yep.
that's like a little bit more of a thing,
Yeah.
as in like, how do you get my wife on board? At
Yeah.
least from my experience personally,
Totally.
I have I generally have found that the reason why they don't feel like they're supportive or on board is because they haven't had that conversation with them, and
Yep.
they're not clear most of the time, right? They're just not, the spouse isn't clear on the goal, right?
Yep.
And so what I actually said to this client was, I was like, I mean, and she wasn't talking about like her situation. She was just asking about it. I know like it's been something she's asked me in the past as well, but it's like, I was like, you gotta take your goal and you have to like relay it on, be like, hey, like, I'm doing this, or like, I'm changing this up, and this is why I want to do it. It's like, hey, I want to lose, um, you know, 25 pounds, right? This is why I want to do it, right? And this is what, like, I would love if you would help me out and just support me. And here's what that looks like.
Hmm.
Like, that is how I would go about it, and the advice that I give, because I think that it's like, okay, I need your support on this, right? Because I mean, you got to be clear, like, be clear with what it is and why it's important to you. Because if you're not, if it's like, I'm just going at this, like you said, like, if first off, you're helping yourself out being clear with your goal and the why behind it, but also at the same time, if I don't like, if I'm just like, oh yeah, this is your MO, like every year you have your New Year's resolution and then a month in it doesn't work, right? Maybe you're serious this time. That's a different story. But then as the spouse, it's like, okay, I need your support here. Now maybe that is like, can we like get all of the sweets out of the house? Like, and then just like when we, not that we can't eat them, but like when we're gonna have ice cream, let's just go out and get ice cream. Like, is
Yeah.
that okay? Or can I have your support in not buying me all of these things that like I love, but and I appreciate that you buy me, but that I end up like going crazy on, right? It's like these little small things, or it's like, can I get your support in like when I want to get up early and go work out, that you're not like dogging me for it, or like, making fun of me. Just like different small things that could come up. And I think that's a huge thing. And then you have to understand that most people, if they do love you and like want to be with you for life, they're gonna support you on that when you come with that thing to them. Now there's going to be those one-off scenarios where maybe they don't,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not our place to say really, but it's like that's a thing you got to now start to reevaluate on, like, you know like you said earlier, is this just your common pattern, and the reason why they're not supporting you is because like you've done this 15 times and like it never
Right.
sticks
Yeah.
for more than 2 weeks? Or is it that this person is just not supportive and maybe they never have been, and like that's something that you got to take into your own consideration at that point, and like figure out if this person's really the right person for you, if you really want to spend your time with somebody who is not going to actually support your goals and your dreams, because it's not going to be a one-off thing then at that point. If this is something that generally you could probably look in different areas at that point and see, oh, this is a pattern of theirs. They're kind of zoned in on themselves and what's best for them.
Yeah, that's why I think it's really important on the individual and who's asking it and how serious they are about what
Yeah.
it is that they want to achieve. Because if it is a recurring theme, it's going to be very hard to get. You can see why they don't get the support, because and it may not even be the lack of support. It may just be like not taking them seriously. Like it's one of those things of like, oh, here we go again. Like here comes the New Year's resolution that fails after 2 weeks. Like I've seen it year after year. So it like falls on deaf ears when they tell them. That's different than going. I think it's getting to the root cause of figuring out if they truly do not support you. Is it more of that side, or is it more of like there may be some deep jealousy hidden in there, right? Like there may be some like, hey, I'm comfortable here and I want you to be with me. If you get in
Um,
shape, that means I have to do something, right? Like, and so they get uncomfortable. And so that's a different story. But I think you can almost condense all of them down into clear communication and really being, uh, transparent with your partner and being like, this is what I want. Like you were saying, like be extremely crystal clear, because they may not even know what you want. You might just like assume that they know because you bought a program, or because you've maybe voiced it kind of like once, or, so in sometimes people's head, it's like, oh man, why aren't they supported? Like they should know, like they understand, like, and it's like, well, maybe you have to have that like blatant conversation with them. And once they get clarity on it, once they see your vision, you might get a little bit better buy-in from them. But if they're like very hazy on it, or you kind of just scratch the surface with some stuff, or you've hinted some things and you're accepting your partner to like completely understand, right? So I think it's like a communication thing is what it always comes down to. And then you can kind of like distinguish the rest of your roadmap from there, because a lot of nuanced things can happen from this. But I will say, when the roles are reversed, right? Like, so if let's say the male wants to get support from the female, a lot of times, this one is less common, but when it does happen, um, this is a conversation that I usually have with the individual, with the leader of the family, right? Where I say, hey, like this is a situation and scenario that you have to make a decision and you have to be firm with it. Take their opinion with a grain of salt, take some consideration in it. But this is more like, I'm not going to say like your way is the highway, but you basically have to make a decision as the man of the household. Like, yeah, you can get support from your wife and it'll be nice. But dude, if like you being the leader of your family and you being the one to be like, hey, I want my kids to look at me as a superhero. I want them to look up to me to be like, hey, a good example to live a healthy and fit lifestyle. I'm tired of making excuses of why I can't play with my kids because I'm fat and out of shape. And you're going to succumb to not getting the support of your wife. And so you're going to keep those same results. Like, that's a conversation I'm going to have with that individual. Like, dude, if you truly want this, you need to put your foot down, have the conversation, not in like a demeaning or, negative way, but you need to be crystal clear on what's important for you and why you're doing it, because it's going to better your family. And when you put it and you word it that way, you don't necessarily need support from your spouse. You just need to be like, hey, this is important to me. I know that every single one of us is going to be better from this. It's going to take some sacrifice. It's going to be challenging for me. I would like you to be on this ship, but dude, if you're a man of the house, like that ship is sailing, and you just got to be like, hey, if you don't want to jump on, that's fine, but I'm doing this for us and I'm doing this for our family. I think that's like, you have to be more firm as a male. But females, I get it. Like, sometimes the guys run the financials, like, you guys make decisions together. I get that. But health and fitness is one of those ones where I've seen time and time again that especially men will be like, yeah, she's just not on board. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. And I'm like, what? Like, listen to yourself, dude. Like, take yourself out. Like, you and I've talked about this before. Listen to somebody else. Listen to your best friend. If they were in this scenario, like, listen to somebody that you really care about and you love, and they were saying the same thing that you're saying, you'd probably tell them like, dude, you like, yeah, it's cool to get support from them, but you don't need that. Like, you can make your own decision for something like this where you're bettering your family, right? Like, you're increasing the longevity, the health of you, which in turn has you show up as a better dad, has you show up as a better family member, has you show up with more clarity and energy and confidence to dominate your career and your job, like everything, right? Like, everything improves. And for you to just kind of like suck back into this hole and go, oh, well, I don't have the support of my spouse, like, I can't do it. And you're a guy, dude, sometimes I tell them like, wake the fuck up, dude, like in the nicest way possible. And I'm like, dude, you got to snap out of it. And if they don't, then you go, hey, maybe they're not ready for this. And that's cool too. Like, they can go at their own pace. But man, I've had some conversations with some guys, and luckily they've turned around. They go, oh, I see what you're talking about, when they look back in hindsight.
Yeah.
And so those are tough conversations to have, man. Like, I wouldn't have that conversation with the ladies, but with the guys, you could be a little bit rougher and be like, dude, you need to make this decision for you and your family. Like, you support or not. Like, if this is important to you and you got the note from your doctor on your last physical that, hey, if you don't do something, you're slowly killing yourself, and you're choosing not to because your wife's not completely bought in or she doesn't quite understand, dude, fuck that. Like, you need to do something. I'm telling you right now. And this can fall on deaf ears and you cannot listen to me. However, you will see that I'm saying this out of love. I'm not saying this out of like, sign up for my program. I'm saying this out of like, draw a line in the sand and do this for you. Like, be the man. And so that's way different than conversation that I would have with like the ladies, right? The ladies like, oh, well, I'm a lot easier on them. But the guys, it's like, dude, you make that decision. Like, that's your decision. But
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. I think that the same token though, like, a guy should be able to emphasize those same steps and get the support too. Like, it's like, if you communicate in the right way, like, there's no reason why your spouse, whether it's your husband or wife, isn't going to get on board with you. Because
yeah,
especially in that scenario you listed, right? If you went to the doctor and you found out that like you have like you're moving towards XYZ, and like you're so like every time you go in you got higher blood pressure and you got your weight's up and whatever, then I mean, that's an easy conversation in my
yeah,
opinion. Not that it's like easy ever to have like that, the tough conversation, especially when it's a lot of change involved, but it's like, hey, like, listen, like, I just got these results, like, I need, like, it isn't like I can't, like, I want, it's like, I need to
yeah,
change things up, and it's because I want to be around for you and the kids, and
yeah,
like, blah blah blah, you keep going with it, right? It's like, okay, yeah, no, I'll help you in any way I can. Like, that's generally what you should see. But then again, not everybody has like the most, like, that, sometimes we talked about it on our episode with finding the right person. Like, it's a lot of, there's a lot of different situations out there, right? And I'm
totally,
not knocking anybody, but like, some people have an amazing relationship. Some people are going through a rocky period. Some people, they settled for someone because they thought it was as good as it's going to get. Like, and so it's, there's a lot of different scenarios that you probably will run into in asking for support. But the key thing is, like you said, communication. Go through those steps that we outline there, and if you need to, just understand that you really don't, at the end of the day, need to support. It comes down to making a decision and being
Yeah.
firm with that decision and committing to that goal and that reason why you want that goal. And if it's big enough, then it doesn't really matter what you have obstacle wise in your way. You're going to achieve it,
Yeah.
right? Or you're going to move towards it, right? And so hopefully that was helpful today. This is a good topic. I mean, it's something that a lot of people run into. We've ran into it many, many times ourselves. So if you did enjoy this one, make sure that you just send it on to somebody else who could help from it. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who are going through these struggles, or you're on the cusp of making that decision to move forward, but you're not sure how your husband or wife or partner or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever will react to it. So just understand that it really just comes down to having that tough conversation, and everything will work out. You should get that support, but then again, if you don't, just commit to it, and if it's
Yeah.
important enough to you, then I guess you're gonna achieve it. But we
Yeah.
appreciate you. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day, great rest of the week. We'll be talking to you soon.